Somewhere, there's a world where I actually remember people's names. A world where I can hula hoop. A world where I actually fold my clothes the right way. But luckily or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, we live in this world where today, in no particular order, I'm sharing 10 of my favorite books that deal with some of the wacky worlds out there in the multiverse. Oh, and if you're living in a world where this channel has yet to become a global sensation, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. My whole world depends on you tapping a couple of buttons. The first book I want to chat about is Dimension of Miracles, and it's kind of a bit like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, with talking dinosaurs, talking cities, egotistical gods, and an Earthman having some otherworldly adventure. And that Earthman's name is Carmody, and he wins this big prize in some galactic sweepstakes that he wasn't even aware that he entered into. And so he's whisked off to the Galactic Center, where the computer in charge of awarding the sweepstakes reveals that he accidentally gave it to the wrong Carmody. Now those responsible for transporting Carmody from Earth to the Galactic Center aren't exactly sure how to get him back to there, to his home world. And he'd better get back to Earth fast, because a predator who's specifically designed to eat Carmody is hot on his tail. Now the writing in this one is different, to say the least, and I mean that in a good way. It can get philosophical at points, in that there's these long pieces of dialogue with intellectual arguments happening, and so you will have to look up some of the words because the author really dug deep into the dictionary to scrounge some of them up. But that surprisingly didn't throw me off at all. It didn't hinder my enjoyment of this in the least. Next up is a book called Quantum Radio, with the main character being Tyson, who's a quantum physicist working with the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, and he makes this groundbreaking theory that he tells to his fellow scientists. And this theory is that there's a pattern to the residual energy after some experiments he's done. And it makes it obvious that someone or something is trying to communicate with him, with this Earth, via quantum energy. And after he reveals this discovery, suddenly Tyson is being followed by a group of shady characters, and he's being told to run for his life. And meanwhile, he's trying to crack this impossible quantum code that he's discovered. He's going to unravel a multiverse mystery that's kind of going on, and he has to wrap his head around some serious alt history that eventually happens. There's a great beginning and a great ending to this book, with a middle section that drags a little bit due to a World War II information dump that's not all that necessary. But overall, the setup and mysteries are good enough to keep you flipping pages. The next book I'm talking about is Fina, and this was a really quirky multiverse story where a customer at a big box store gets sucked into a parallel universe, and two of the store's workers, who just so happen to be exes, have to go through a wormhole and bring that customer back, basically because their manager told them to do it. It's a fun, simple story with a couple of bickering exes who are clearly going to be impacted in a strong way by this working day, everyday catastrophe that they're having to deal with. So yeah, some elements of it are crazy obvious, but it's still worth a read, especially since it's only 103 pages long, meaning you can read it in just a few hours. Let's keep the multiverse party going and talk about The Long Earth. And in this one, when a quirky invention lets humans step into these endless alternate Earths, chaos and adventure happens. Let's just say. Maybe humans have never evolved in the world where they land. Maybe the Earth's physics are crazy weird. Maybe there are still dinosaurs. It feels Jules Verne-y or H.G. Wells-y, as it has this neat mix of sci-fi thought experiments, logical scientific progressions that are going to happen, and then there are these lighthearted moments too. Exploring these unique worlds and learning the ins and outs of stepping, which is what they call exploring those different worlds, that's well worth cracking this really good book open. What if you could explore every version of your life that could have been? Every regret, every mischance, and every road not taken. So in The Midnight Library, Nora Seed is extremely unhappy with her life, to put it mildly, but she's handed a lifeline when she finds herself in the Midnight Library. And each book on the shelves of this mystical, magical library leads to a parallel universe where Nora made a different choice or different choices that lead to a different version of her life. But the big catch is that she can only pick one of these lives to stay in. It's full of a bunch of heart-wrenching what-if parallel worlds with the end goal of trying to eventually suss out what a meaningful, good life really is to Nora. Up next is one of my favorites, and that is Dark Matter, which introduces us to this thrilling multiverse full of familial love and loss. And after a mysterious abduction leaves Jason Dresden trapped in an alternate reality, he's bound and determined to get back to his original wife Daniela and his original son Charlie. And it's this love of his family that spurs him forward as he explores all manner of parallel universes in order to return to the one where he actually belongs. The novel focuses on the depths of Jason's connection to Daniela. It shows how love can affect decisions and lead to big sacrifices, and how even an imperfect world and relationships that have lost their spark can still be more than enough. So next I want to talk about Every Heart a Doorway. And in this book, some kids venture to magical worlds that are specifically designed just for them. And then after they've stayed there for a little while, they come back to the real world where they just feel out of place. To them, those magical worlds, those magical parallel worlds, felt more like home than the real world ever has or will. And the story centers around Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children. And it's a boarding school where these young people who are misunderstood by their families almost completely can share their experiences, share their suffering, share their pain, share this going to parallel universes thing. And the main character is Nancy, and she's just come back from the super morbid Halls of the Dead parallel universe, and now she's struggling to get back to normal life in her original world. And then a series of murders happen at the boarding school, which creates even more chaos and uncertainty for the kids there. In short, this is a super interesting, kind of darker, deeper book that does a really good job of taking on these heavier topics like belonging and understanding. Let's stay in this kind of YA world with Over the Woodward Wall. And this was a short fantasy book with fish out of water vibes along the lines of Alice in Wonderland or Dorothy in Oz. Two children, Zib and Avery, are polar opposites in almost every single way. But basically, one's a free spirit and the other one is a total rule follower. And they're going to school one day when the wall that they're climbing over disappears and they find themselves lost in another world. And now they have to work together to get back home. For Zib and Avery, the quest means going against their nature by taking risks or practicing caution, being brave or being scared. And they have to come to terms with who they are, but also see how they still have plenty of room to evolve, to grow. A couple quick hits about this book. It's set in a strange world called the Up and Under, where there are kings, queens, men that are rocks, girls that are crows, and other really unsettling creatures. It's as quirky should be, but be warned that it gets weird pretty quickly. Up next, I want to chat about A Darker Shade of Magic. And in this one, a young magician, Kel, is one of the last magicians with the rare ability to travel between 4 parallel Londons that are in this book, which he calls Red London, Grey London, White London, and Black London. Now, Kel officially serves the royal family in Red London, serving as an ambassador. He's traveling between these 4 or 3-ish different worlds to deliver messages. These are letters of importance and just kind of news that the other worlds need to know about. However, he also has a secret life as a smuggler, and he's serving people who are willing to pay for even the smallest glimpses of magic, since magic's kind of disappeared in some of these places. It's a risky pastime with super dangerous consequences. And after one of these smuggling jobs goes wrong, Kel escapes to Grey London, where he finds Delilah Bard, and she's this young thief who's looking for a taste of adventure and a chance at something more for her life. And Delilah first saves Kel and then captures him, I guess, and talks him into taking her with him. And so she's now in this world where magic exists, and it's of course unavoidable that things are going to go wrong, horribly wrong, all along the way. Last on my list is the Kaiju Preservation Society, in which the main character Jamie volunteers at the last minute as manual labor for an animal rights group. And as it turns out, there's another Earth in an alternate dimension with crazy animals that Jamie will be helping, and these crazy animals are actually giant monsters called kaijus. And the group of scientists he joined are dedicated to protecting and studying these creatures, but doing so is complicated. It's a good pick if you want a Godzilla-inspired read, but just keep in mind that it dwells on the setting and the monsters more so than the human characters a lot of the time. So the human characters kind of sometimes feel like they're just there to be there and let the author explore this unique alternate world. So again, just be warned going into this one. There you have it, 10 books I've read where you get to explore parallel worlds. Let me know in the comments which multiverse parallel world book I need to crack open next. And as always, happy reading.